silence is power. It's the force that can tame the wildest storms within us. When anger rises, when rage threatens to consume you, remember this. Your greatest strength lies not in your voice, but in your ability to remain silent. You see, my friends, like we live in a world that glorifies noise. We're surrounded by constant chatter, endless notifications, and the pressure to always have something to say. But true mastery, true control over your life and your emotions comes from understanding the value of silence. Think about it. How many times have you said something in anger that you later regretted? How often have those heated words caused damage that took years to repair? Now imagine if you had chosen silence instead. Imagine the power you would have held, the respect you would have commanded, simply by refusing to let rage dictate your actions. This isn't about suppressing your emotion. It's about channeling them, about using them as fuel for growth rather than destruction. When you feel that anger rising, when you feel that rage building up inside you, that's when you need to pause. Take a deep breath and choose silence. In that moment of silence, you give yourself the gift of clarity. You create space between your emotions and your actions. And in that space, you find the power to respond rather than react. You see, rage is like a fire. Start small. Tiny spark of irritation or frustration. But if you feed it with your words, if you give it the oxygen of your anger, it grows. It consumes everything in its path, burning bridges and destroying relationships. But silence is the water that extinguishes that fire before it can spread. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Isn't it important to express our emotions? Isn't it unhealthy to keep things bottled up inside? And you're right, my friends, expression is important. But there's a difference between thoughtful expression and impulsive reaction. When you choose silence in the face of rage, you're not bottling up your emotions. You're giving yourself time to process them. You're allowing yourself the opportunity to understand where that anger is coming from, to address its root cause rather than just its symptoms. When you drive in a car and you hit a patch of ice, what's the first thing you do? You take your foot off the gas. You don't slam on the brakes. You don't jerk the wheel. You pause. You give yourself a moment to assess the situation. That's what silence does when you're faced with rage. It gives you that crucial moment to regain control. But mastering your rage with silence isn't just about avoiding negative consequences. It's about opening yourself up to incredible opportunities for growth and success. You see, when you can remain silent in the face of provocation, you demonstrate a level of self-control that commands respect. People are drawn to those who can maintain their composure under pressure. They trust leaders who don't fly off the handle at the slightest provocation. Think about the great leaders throughout history. The ones who made real, lasting change. They weren't the ones who shouted the loudest or reacted with the most anger. They were the ones who knew when to speak and more importantly, when to remain silent. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. Can you imagine the rage he must have felt? The anger at the injustice of his situation? But he chose silence. He chose to use that time for reflection, for growth. And when he emerged, he led his nation not with anger, but with wisdom and compassion. Mahatma Gandhi faced brutal oppression and violence, but he responded not with rage, but in silence and nonviolent resistance. His silence spoke volumes and it changed the course of history. You have that same power within you. Every time you choose silence over rage, you're not just avoiding conflict. You're building strength. You're developing a skill that will serve you in every area of your life. In your relationship, silence in the face of anger can prevent words that can never be taken back. It can create space for understanding and reconciliation. In your career, silence can prevent rash decisions and maintain professional relationships. In your personal growth, silence can provide the clarity you need to address the real issues in your life. But let me be clear, choosing silence isn't easy. It's not about being passive or weak. It takes tremendous strength to remain silent when every fiber of your being is screaming to lash out. It takes courage to face your own emotions head on, to sit with them, to understand them rather than projecting them onto others. So how do we develop this skill? How do we master our rage with silence? It starts with awareness. You need to become acutely aware of your emotional state. Learn to recognize the early signs of anger. That tightness in your chest, that clenching of your jaw, the racing of your thoughts. When you can catch rage in its early stages, it's much easier to choose silence. Next, you need to practice. Like any skill, Mastering your rage with silence takes time and effort. Start small. The next time you feel irritated, pause before you speak. Take a deep breath. Count to 10 if you need to. Give yourself that moment of silence, even if it's just for a few seconds. As you practice, you'll find that those moments of silence become easier to maintain. You'll start to see the benefits in your life. You'll notice how people respond differently to you. How situations that used to escalate now resolve themselves peacefully. But remember, this isn't about never expressing yourself. It's about choosing the right time and the right way to express yourself. Use your silence as a tool to gather your thoughts, to process your emotions, to formulate a response that comes from a place of wisdom rather than rage. When you do speak, let your words be measured and meaningful. Let them come from a place of understanding rather than anger. You'll find that when you break your silence, people listen because they know that your words are chosen carefully, that they come from a place of thoughtfulness rather than impulsivity. Now, some of you might be thinking, what about injustice? What about situations that truly deserve our anger? And you're right to ask that question. There are times when anger is justified, when it's a natural and appropriate response to the world around us. But even in those situations, especially in those situations, silence can be your most powerful tool. Because silence doesn't mean inaction. It means choosing your actions wisely. It means responding from a place of strength and strategy rather than blind rage. Think about it. When you're faced with injustice, what's more effective? A knee-jerk reaction of anger or a well-thought-out plan of action? Silence gives you the space to develop that plan. It allows you to channel your anger into productive change rather than destructive outbursts. Remember, your rage is energy. It's a powerful force. But like any form of energy, it needs to be directed properly to be effective. Silence is the conduit through which you can transform that raw energy of rage into the focused power of purpose. As you practice mastering your rage with silence, you'll start to notice changes, not just in how you interact with others, but in how you interact with yourself. You'll develop a deeper understanding of your own emotions. You'll start to see patterns in what triggers your anger, what fuels your rage. And in that understanding, you'll find freedom. Because when you can recognize your triggers, when you can see your patterns, you gain the power to change them. You're no longer at the mercy of your emotion. You become the master of them. This mastery, this control, it ripples out into every area of your life. Your relationships have improved because you're no longer reacting from a place of anger. Your work life improves because you're able to handle stress and pressure with grace. Your personal growth accelerates because you're constantly learning from your experiences rather than being controlled by them. But perhaps the most profound change comes in how you view yourself. When you can face your rage with silence, when you can look into the mirror of your own emotions without flinching, you develop a level of self-respect that's unshakable. You know that no matter what life throws at you, you have the strength to respond with wisdom rather than react. This self-respect, this inner strength, it becomes your foundation. It becomes the rock upon which you build your life. And from that foundation, there's no limit to what you can achieve. So I challenge you, my friends, the next time you feel that rage rise and choose silence, give yourself that gift of pause, that moment of clarity. It won't be easy. There will be times when you fail, when the rage overwhelms you. But don't let those moments discourage you. Each time you try, each time you choose silence, even for a second, you're growing stronger. Remember, this is a journey. It's not about perfection. It's about progress, about becoming a little bit better each day, a little more in control of your emotions, a little more capable of facing life's challenges with grace and wisdom. As you walk this path, as you learn to master your rage with silence, you'll find that you're not just changing yourself, you're changing the world around you. Because when you respond to anger with silence, when you meet rage with calm, you create a ripple effect. People will notice. They'll be drawn to your strength, to your composure. They'll start to emulate your behavior, and slowly but surely, you'll be creating a more peaceful, more understanding world. Imagine a world where everyone had this skill, where conflicts were resolved not with shouting matches or violence, but with thoughtful discussion and mutual understanding. That's the power you hold within you. That's the change you can create, one moment of silence at a time. So embrace this challenge. Embrace the power of silence. Let it be your shield against rage, your tool for growth, your path to success. Because when you master your rage with silence, you master your life. Remember, in the silence, you'll find your strength. In the pause, you'll find your power. In the quiet, you'll find your voice. And that voice, tempered by silence, strengthened by self-control, will be a voice that changes lives, that inspires others, that creates real and lasting impact in this world. You have greatness within you. So you have the power to change, not just your life, but the lives of those around you. And it all starts with a simple choice. The choice to meet rage with silence. The choice to respond rather than react. The choice to be the master of your emotions rather than their slave. So take that deep breath. Embrace that moment of silence and watch as it transforms not just your rage, but your entire life. Because in that silence, in that pause, in that moment of self-control, you'll find more than just peace. You'll find your purpose. You'll find your power. You'll find the very best version of yourself. And that, my friends, is a discovery worth making. That's a journey worth taking. That's a life worth living. So let's make that choice together. Let's embrace the power of silence. Let's master our rage, master our lives. And in doing so, let's create a better world for ourselves and for generations to come. You see, when you master your rage with silence, you're not just changing your behavior. You're rewiring your brain. You're creating new neural pathways, new habits that will serve you for the rest of your life. Think about it. Every time you choose silence over rage, you're strengthening those neural connections. You're making it easier for your brain to choose that path in the future. It's like building a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. And as that silence muscle grows stronger, you'll find that it becomes your default response. You'll no longer have to consciously choose silence in the face of rage. It will become your natural reaction, your instinctive response. But this isn't just about personal growth. It's about leadership. You see, true leaders aren't those who shout the loudest or react the strongest. True leaders are those who can maintain their composure in the face of adversity. Those who can think clearly when everyone else is losing their heads. When you master your rage with silence, you're developing one of the most crucial skills of leadership. You're showing others that it's possible to face challenges without losing control. You're demonstrating that strength isn't about dominating others, but about mastering yourself. And people will notice. They'll be drawn to, calm presence. They'll seek your advice, your guidance, because they're recognizing you something that they aspire to in themselves. That ability to stay centered, to stay focused, even when the world around you is in chaos. But let's talk about something that often gets overlooked when we discuss mastering rage. Let's talk about forgiveness. Because choosing silence in the face of rage isn't just about controlling your immediate reaction. It's about creating space for healing, for understanding, for forgiveness. You see, when you respond to anger with more anger, you create a cycle that's hard to break. But when you respond with silence, you create opportunity. An opportunity for the other person to reflect on their actions. An opportunity for you to see beyond your immediate emotions. An opportunity for forgiveness to take root. And forgiveness, my friends, is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. It has the power to heal wounds, to mend relationships, to change lives. But forgiveness isn't always easy. It requires strength. It requires courage. And often it requires silence. In that silence, you give yourself the space to process your emotions, to understand not just your own pain, but the pain of the other person, to see beyond the surface level of the conflict to the deeper issues that lie beneath. And in that understanding, you find the strength to forgive. Not because the other person deserves it, but because you deserve peace. Because holding on to rage, holding on to anger, it's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It only hurts you in the end. But when you choose silence, when you choose forgiveness, you free yourself from that poison. You release yourself from the bondage of rage. And in that freedom, you find true power. Now, I want to address something that some of you might be thinking. Isn't this just about suppressing our emotions? Isn't it unhealthy to keep everything bottled up inside? And that's a valid concern. But mastering your rage with silence isn't about suppression. It's about transformation. It's about taking that raw energy of rage and transforming it into something positive, something constructive. Think of it like this. Rage is like crude oil, In its raw form, it's volatile, dangerous, destructive. But when you refine it, when you process it, you can turn it into fuel that powers engines, that drives progress. That's what silence allows you to do with your rage. It gives you the space to refine it, to process it, to transform it into fuel for positive change. Instead of lashing out in anger, you can channel that energy into solving problems, into creating solutions, into making a real difference in the world. But this transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, a journey. And like any journey, there will be setbacks. There will be times when you fail, when the rage overwhelms you, when you react instead of respond. But here's the beautiful thing about this journey. Each setback is an opportunity for growth. Each failure is a chance to learn. Each moment of rage that you don't quite manage to meet with silence is a lesson that makes you stronger for next time. So don't be discouraged by your failures. Embrace them. Learn from them. Use them as stepping stones on your path to mastery. Because it's not about being perfect. It's about being better. It's about growing, learning, evolving every single day. And as you walk this path, as you learn to master your rage with silence, you'll start to notice changes, not just in how you handle anger, but in how you approach life in general. You'll find yourself becoming more patient, more understanding, more compassionate. You'll start to see the world differently. Instead of seeing threats and reasons for anger, you'll start to see opportunities for growth, for connection, for positive change. You'll start to understand that most of the time, the things that trigger our rage aren't personal attacks, but expressions of other people's pain, fear, or insecurity. And in that understanding, you'll find compassion. You'll find the strength to respond with kindness, even in the face of hostility. Because you'll realize that the person in front of you, the one who's causing your anger, they're on their own journey too. They're fighting their own battles, carrying their own burdens. And who knows? That maybe your silence, your calm response, that will be the thing that helps them on their journey. Maybe your refusal to engage in rage will be the example they need to start mastering their own emotions. You see, when you master your rage with silence, you're not just changing yourself, you're changing the world around you. You're breaking the cycle of anger and retaliation that keeps so many people trapped. You're showing a different way, a better way of dealing with conflict and adversity. And that, my friends, is how real change happens. You know, we're not through grand gestures or sweeping revolutions, but through individual choices, through each of us deciding moment by moment to choose silence over rage, understanding over anger, love over hate. Now, I want to talk about something that's crucial in this journey of mastering your rage with silence, and that's self-care. Because choosing silence in the face of rage, transforming that anger into something positive, it takes energy, it takes strength. And if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not replenishing your energy, you'll find it harder and harder to make that choice. So part of mastering your rage with silence is learning to take care of yourself. It's about creating habits and practices that keep you centered, that keep you grounded, that give you the strength to face life's challenges with grace and composure. This might mean setting aside time each day for meditation or prayer. It might mean regular exercise to release tension and build physical strength. It might mean journaling to process your thoughts and emotions. Whatever it is, find what works for you and make it a non-negotiable part of your daily routine. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't give peace to others if you don't have peace within yourself. So taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. It's what allows you to show up fully in your life, to be the best version of yourself, to have the strength to choose silence even when everything inside you is screaming to lash out. Now, let's talk about something that often gets overlooked when we discuss mastering rage. Let's talk about the power of your words when you do choose to speak. Because remember, choosing silence doesn't mean never speaking up. It means choosing your words carefully, speaking from a place of wisdom rather than rage. When you master the art of silence, when you've learned to process your emotions before reacting, you'll find that your words carry more weight. People listen when you speak because they know your words are chosen carefully, that they come from a place of thoughtfulness rather than impulsivity. Think about it. Who do you respect more? The person who's always quick to speak, always ready with a sharp retort, or the person who listens carefully, who thinks before they speak, who chooses their words with intention? When you master your rage with silence, you become that second person. Your words become powerful, not because they're loud or angry, but because they're measured, thoughtful, wise. You speak not to wound, but to heal. Not to divide, but to unite. Not to tear down, but to build up. And that, my friends, is true power. The power to speak words that change lives, that inspire others, that create real and lasting impact in this world. But here's the thing. This power doesn't come from suppressing your emotions. It comes from understanding them, from processing them, from transforming them. In the silence, you're not ignoring your rage. You're listening to it. You're asking it what it's trying to tell you. Because often, Our rage is a messenger. It's trying to alert us to something that's wrong, something that needs to change. The problem is, when we react immediately from that place of rage, we often miss the message. We're so caught up in the heat of the moment that we can't see the bigger picture. But when you choose silent, right, when you give yourself that pause, you create space to hear the message behind the rage. Maybe it's telling you about a boundary that's been crossed. Maybe it's highlighting an injustice that needs to be addressed. Maybe it's pointing out a part of yourself that needs healing. Whatever it is, by choosing silence, you give yourself the opportunity to understand the root cause of your rage. And once you understand it, you can address it. Not with more anger, but with wisdom, with compassion, with purposeful action. This is where true transformation happens. This is where you turn your rage from a destructive force into a catalyst for positive change. This is where you become not just a master of your rage, but a master of your life. Now, I want to address something that some of you might be struggling with. You might be thinking, I've tried to stay silent when I'm angry. I've tried to hold it in, but it just builds up until I explode. And I hear you. I understand that fear. But remember, mastering your rage with silence isn't about suppression. It's not about bottling up your emotions until they burst. It's about creating space to process, space to understand, space to choose your response. Think of it like this. When you feel that rage rising, imagine it's like a pot of water on the stove. If you put a lid on and turn up the heat, eventually it's going to boil over. That's what happens when you try to suppress your rage. But if you take the lid off, if you give it space, the water might still boil, but it won't explode. That's what silence does. It takes the lid off. It gives your emotions room to exist without controlling you. And here's the beautiful thing. As you practice this, you get better at creating this space. You'll find that the water doesn't even need to reach boiling point. You'll catch it early. You'll recognize the signs, and you'll be able to turn down the heat before it gets out of control. That's the power of mastering your rage with silence. It's not about never feeling angry. It's about recognizing your anger early, understanding it, and choosing how to respond to it. And as you practice this, as you get better at it, you start to notice changes, not just in how you handle anger, but in how you approach all of your emotions. You'll develop a level of emotional intelligence that will serve you in every area of your life. You'll become more empathetic, better able to understand and connect with others. You'll become more resilient, better able to handle life's ups and downs. You become more insightful, better able to understand yourself and your motivations. And all of these benefits, they ripple out into every area of your life. Your relationships improve because you're able to communicate more effectively, to resolve conflicts more peacefully. Your career advances because you're able to handle pressure with grace, to lead with wisdom rather than reactivity. Your personal growth accelerates because you're constantly learning, constantly evolving, constantly becoming a better version of yourself. But perhaps the most profound change comes in how you view yourself. When you can face your rage with silence, when you can look into the mirror of your own emotions without flinching, you develop a level of self-respect that's unshakable. You know that no matter what life throws at you, you have the strength to respond with wisdom rather than reaction. This self-respect, this inner strength, it becomes your foundation. It becomes the rock upon which you build your life. And from that foundation, there's no limit to what you can achieve. So I challenge you, my friends, because next time you feel that rage rising, choose silence, give yourself that gift of pause. That moment of clarity, it won't be easy. There will be times when you fail, when the rage overwhelms you. But don't let those moments discourage you. Each time you try, each time you choose silence, even for a second, you're growing stronger. Remember, this is a journey. It's not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about becoming a little bit better each day, a little more in control of your emotions, a little more capable of facing life's challenges with grace and wisdom. And as you walk this path, as you learn to master your rage with silence, you'll find that you're not just changing yourself, you're changing the world around you. Because when you respond to anger with silence, when you meet rage with calm, you create a ripple effect. People will notice. They'll be drawn to your strength, to your composure. They'll start to emulate your behavior. And slowly but surely, you'll be creating a more peaceful, more understanding world. Imagine a world where everyone had this skill, where conflicts were resolved not with shouting matches or violence, but with thoughtful discussion and mutual understanding. That's the power you hold within you. That's the change. You can create one moment of silence at a time. So embrace this challenge. Embrace the power of silence. Let it be your shield against rage, your tool for growth. your path to success. Because when you master your rage with silence, you master your life. Now, I want to talk about something that's crucial in this journey, and that's patience, because mastering your rage with silence is not something that happens overnight. It's a skill that you develop over time with practice and persistence. There will be days when it feels easy, when you're able to meet every challenge with calm and composure. And there will be days when it feels impossible, when the rage seems too strong, the silence too hard to maintain. Every time you try to choose silence over rage, even if you don't quite succeed, you're building that muscle. You're creating those neural pathways. You're getting stronger. So be patient with yourself. Celebrate your successes, no matter how small they might seem. And when you fail, when the rage gets the better of you, don't beat yourself up. Instead, use it as a learning opportunity. As you triggered me, how could I have responded differently? What can I do better next time? Because every failure, every setback is not a step backward. It's a step forward in your understanding. It's another piece of the puzzle in your journey to mastery. And remember, this journey isn't just about controlling your rage. It's about understanding yourself on a deeper level. It's about developing a relationship with your emotions that allows you to use them as tools for growth rather than letting them control you. As you practice mastering your rage with silence, you'll start to notice patterns. You'll start to understand your triggers, your vulnerabilities, your strengths. You'll gain insights into your own psyche that will serve you in every area of your life. And that self-knowledge, that self-awareness, it's priceless. It's the foundation upon which you can build the life you truly want. Because when you understand yourself, when you're in control of all of your emotions rather than being controlled by them, you can make choices that align with your true values, your deepest desires, your highest purpose. Now, I want to address something that some of you might be wondering. You might be thinking, isn't anger sometimes necessary? Isn't it sometimes right to speak up, to fight against injustice? And you're absolutely right. Anger can be a powerful force for change when it's channeled properly. The key word here is channeled, because raw, uncontrolled anger, it rarely creates positive change. It often just creates more conflict, more division, more pain. But when you master your rage with silence, you're not eliminating your anger, you're refining it. You're turning from a wild, destructive force into a focused, constructive one. You're giving yourself the ability to choose how to use that energy. Think about the great change makers throughout history. People like Martin Luther King Jr., Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela. These were not people without anger. They faced injustice, oppression. They had every reason to be enraged, but they didn't let that rage control them. They didn't let it dictate their actions. Instead, they channeled it. They used it as fuel for change, as motivation to keep going in the face of overwhelming odds. And they did it not through violence or retaliation, but through nonviolent resistance, through peaceful protest, through the power of their words and the strength of their convictions. That's the power you're developing when you master your rage with silence. You're giving yourself the ability to choose your response, to channel your emotions in a way that creates real, lasting change. And here's the beautiful thing. As you develop these skills, you learn to master your rage with silence. You'll find that your anger actually becomes more powerful, not less. Because when you speak from a place of controlled passion rather than blind rage, people listen. When your actions come from a place of purposeful intent rather than reactive emotion, they have impact. You become like a laser focused and precise rather than a wildfire, destructive and uncontrolled. And that focused energy, that controlled passion, that's what changes the world. So don't think of mastering your rage with silence, as suppressing your anger or ignoring injustice. Think of it as refining your anger, focusing it, turning it into a tool for positive change rather than a weapon of destruction. Now, let's talk about the impact this, can have on your relationships. Because when you master your rage with silence, you're not just changing yourself. You're changing how you interact with everyone around you. Think about it. How many relationships have been damaged by words spoken in anger? How many friendships have ended? How many families have been torn apart? Because of rage that was allowed to run unchecked. But when you master your rage with silence, you give yourself the power to break that cycle. You create space in your relationships for understanding, for compassion, for growth. You become a safe haven for the people in your life, someone they can trust to respond with wisdom rather than reactivity. And that trust, that safety is the foundation of deep, meaningful relationships. It's what allows for real intimacy, real connection, Because when people know they can come to you with their true selves without fear of judgment or angry outbursts, that's when real relationships are built. But it goes beyond just your personal relationship. This skill, this ability to master your rage with silence, it's invaluable in every area of your life. In your career, it allows you to navigate difficult situations with grace, to lead with wisdom rather than force. In your community, it enables you to be a voice of reason, a force for unity rather than division. You become someone who can stand in the midst of chaos and create calm. Someone who can face adversity without losing their center. Someone who can lead not through domination or force, but through example and inspiration. And as you develop this skill, as you become this person, you'll find that opportunities start to open up for you. People will be drawn to your calm presence, your thoughtful words, your controlled strength. They'll seek your advice, your leadership, your friendship. You'll become a beacon of hope in a world that often feels overwhelmed by anger and division. You'll be living proof that there's another way, a better way to handle conflict and adversity. But remember, this journey of mastering your rage with silence, it's not just about what you can gain, it's about what you can give. Because as you develop this skill, you gain the power to help others do the same. You become a teacher not through your words, but through your actions. Every time you choose silence over rage, every time you respond with calm in the face of anger, you're showing others that it's possible. You create a ripple effect that can change not just your life, but the lives of everyone around you. Imagine a world where more people had this skill, where conflicts were resolved through understanding rather than force, where differences were seen as opportunities for growth rather than reasons for division, where rage was channeled into positive change rather than destructive outbursts. That's the world you're helping to create every time you choose silence over rage, every time you pause before reacting, every time you respond with wisdom rather than anger. So embrace this challenge, my friend. Embrace the power of silence. Let it be your tool for growth, your path to success, your way of changing the world. Because when you master your rage with silence, you're not just mastering your emotions, you're mastering your life. And in doing so, you're helping to create a better world for all of us. Remember, in the silence, you'll find your strength. In the pause, you'll find your power. In the quiet, you'll find your voice. And that voice, tempered by silence, strengthened by self-control, will be a voice that changes lives, that inspires others, that creates real and lasting impact in this world. You have greatness within you. You have the power to change, not just your life, but the lives of those around you. And it all starts with a simple choice, the choice to meet rage with silence, the choice to respond rather than react, the choice to be the master of your emotions rather than their slave. So take that deep breath, embrace that moment of silence, and watch as it transforms not just your rage, but your entire life. Because in that silence, in that pause, in that moment of self-control, you'll find more than just peace. You'll find your purpose. You'll find your power. You'll find the very best version of yourself. And that, my friends, is a discovery worth making. That's a journey worth taking. That's a life worth living. So let's make that choice together. Let's embrace the power of silence. Let's master our rage, master our lives. And in doing so, let's create a better world for ourselves and for generations to come. The power is within you. The choice is yours. The time is now. Master your rage with silence and master your destiny. Your journey to greatness begins with this single step. This moment of silence. Embrace it, cherish it, and let it guide you to the extraordinary life you were meant to live. The world is waiting for the unique gift that only you can bring. So step into your power, embrace your silence, and let your transformed rage fuel the positive change you were born to create. Your time is now. Seize it with both hands and never let go. The future is yours to shape, one silent moment at a time. Go forth and conquer, not with loud words, but with the quiet strength that comes from mastering your rage with silence. Your legacy awaits, created with purpose, passion, and the power of your silent strength. The world needs your voice, tempered by silence and strengthened by self-mastery. Be the change. Be the master of your rage and the creator of your destiny. Your journey starts now. Embrace it with all your heart and soul. The power of silence is yours. Use it wisely, use it well, and watch as it transforms not just your life, but the entire world around you. The choice is yours. The time is now.